Good afternoon, everybody. This is Aaron Verzat, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to make a screencast. So your essential questions for this lesson are, what is a screencast? Why should I use screencasts? How do I make one? And then finally at the end, we're going to go over some tips. So what I just did right here is I used essential questions at the beginning of my screencast. This front loads what's going to be coming down the pipe for students in their learning. It helps them know what they should keep their eyes open for. It also gauges mastery of the content. So a screencast is a digital capture of a computer screen, and it's recorded for the purpose of informative and educational lecture. And the beauty of it is that it can be watched and rewatched, and because of this one trait, it needs to be densely packed with information, very densely packed. When your students watch one of these, they should be backing up and pausing and taking notes, and then continuing on, and then pausing and taking notes, and so on as they work. This functions not only as a supplement to your lectures, but also as a textbook to a degree. Now, given its complexity, aim for no more than 5 to 12 minutes in length. If it's too short, you won't be able to get enough information. If it's too long, you'll lose student engagement. Well, there are many reasons why to use a screencast. The first is mainly if the students miss class. It's a great resource for those who need to get either caught up or they want to stay abreast to what's going on in class while they're at home. Another reason is if you miss class. If you have a screencast that's pre-recorded, if you know in advance, then you can have your substitute teacher show that and assign it in class, and so your students are still up to date. Another reason would be to supplement class. If you have content that's very heavy and you need to piggyback an additional form of instruction on top of what you're doing in the class, it's a great way for your students to get the rest of the information at their own pace. And finally, to sort of replace lecture with the intent of putting more of you to go around one-on-one to the students. If you find that many of your students are quitting their assignments because they're either too hard or they get stuck and they don't have the coping skills or the maturity to move forward, then naturally they need more guidance. So this would be one of the ways that you could shift your instruction to make yourself more available to redirect, to encourage, to work one-on-one so that those kids can persist. So how do I make one? Well, I learned off of YouTube. There's a lot of good resources there. But your first step is to determine if a screencast fits your lesson. Not all lessons will fit with pre-recorded instruction. Now, from what I've seen, hands-on lab lessons work best in tandem with the screencasts. But many different curriculums from health science, math, English, they've all reported success using this method. All right, so let's say you've determined your lesson works well with screencast. First thing you need to do is just make a slide presentation using either PowerPoint, Keynote, like I'm using right here. Then you use screen capture software and a webcam to record your lecture, just as you would in class. Now, it doesn't have to just be your lecture. You could also record a demonstration. If you have a lab experiment, say in a chemistry class, you could record the setup procedure, the lab procedure, and the teardown also, so that you could front load all these expectations to students in advance, saving you time to work with them. Now, once you're finished recording, you usually edit your video a little bit to make it presentable and then make it accessible somehow. You could put it on YouTube, Edline. You can just show them in the middle of class if that's the way you want to structure your class. If you want your students to watch them at home outside of class, then put it on Edline, the school's webpage. You could put it on YouTube, put it on My Big Campus. If they don't have a computer or internet access, send them home with a DVD player. If they don't have a DVD player, they can use it through their smartphone. If they don't have a smartphone, you can send home a jump drive with the digital clip on it and have them put it in their gaming console. If they don't have that, tablets and e-readers most oftentimes have the ability to play back video and audio. If they don't have that, their iPod can do it. And even the most bare bones cell phone has the ability to take photos and video and play back video. So there's really no way that accessibility is ever an option. All right, some tips with it. Zoom in and zoom out in your instruction. And that enhances student engagement. If the student's staring at a static image for the duration of the clip, they're eventually going to get bored and space out. By changing the position of your screen, by shifting things in and out, by zooming in on key topics and zooming back out, that helps a lot. Regardless of how you're going to incorporate the screencast, include some measure of accountability. In my class, I have 2 measures of accountability. They need to answer lesson questions at the end of the video that are put in the video, and they also have to take notes, and those notes are random note checks that go in the gradebook. Another one is understand that screencasts do not replace you as a teacher. They don't replace your job. They don't replace the live lecture. What they do is they shift the lecture to a different part on their learning timeline within the week. The purpose of which is to focus on what still goes on in the classroom. You're freeing up time to work one-on-one with your students. Your class time needs to be directly tied and relevant to the screencast material, or else there'll be no reason for them to watch it. Now, you're going to get varieties of learning abilities in your class. Some kids are going to learn slow, fast, medium. The beauty with the screencast is that for any IEP that requires extra time, the screencast naturally fits that because they can go back and watch it again and again and again and again. Another thing you can do is you can use tiered small groups. Using the content in your screencast, make a variety of small group activities that differentiate the material. So don't give them more work if they're more advanced, simply give them more complex work. If you need to, get those who still just aren't getting it into a small group with you and reteach it to them. Now in my class, as an example of the way it works, I generally don't do this for those who choose not to watch the screencasts. I always point them back to where they have the support, and it's up to them to use it or not. It's like skipping class. Now about reteaching, I only do that for students who have studied the screencast, who have passed their note check, who have done their lesson questions. Anytime a student chooses not to do their homework, I always refer them back to the homework. It is their responsibility, after all, to grasp their learning. And you would be defeating the purpose of your hard work on the screencast and change in classroom structure by enabling that type of behavior, hence the use of accountability. Tie portions of their grade to their homework responsibilities. Tie their ability to practice in small groups with their friends to their homework responsibilities. Tie their access to you as a teacher to their homework responsibilities. Tie everything to it and have your classroom simply support it. Now, scripting is optional. You can script if you want. I script sometimes. It feels a little more stale when I do that, but I found that students respond better to a candid and kind of a casual demeanor in the screencasts. Another thing, tailor the technical complexity of your screencast to what's comfortable for you and your time and technology constraints. Hey, it's up to you. You can use annotations to highlight the important stuff in your work. You can put background music over everything, sound effects if you want. You can also import other videos and use those for examples. Another big one, don't reinvent the wheel. If there are other screencasts on the internet that are successful, then use those as well. But if you want to be tied directly to your students' learning and engagement and have kind of more relevance and trust in your classroom, you'll want to record yourself. Include some humor. Make it something worth their while to watch. You can get silly if you want to. You could be serious. You could use dry wit. Whatever you want to do. Start out with a joke or just make it presentable in a fashion that would be entertaining to an adolescent mind in an educational setting. You can use music. Sometimes it can complement, for example, in a demonstration. Other times it can distract. I usually kill the music when I'm doing things that are very detailed. Use music, but just know that it can sometimes complement and some other times it can distract. Survey your students for feedback. Find out what works for them, what doesn't work as far as presentation is concerned. And that's basically it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how I edit one of these bad boys together. Okay everybody, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a brief tutorial on how to use ScreenFlow to edit your screencasts. Alright, so let's just take a look at the lay of the land. Right up here is an example of what my screen will look like. Over here on the right, this is where all of your toolbars are. The ones that I use are the Video Properties toolbar. This is what I use to zoom in and zoom out. I use the Audio Properties to mess with my audio a bit in case it's fuzzy. I use the Annotations properties to put arrows, boxes, highlights, underline things just to bring attention to parts of my video. And I also use the text properties to put text boxes in my video as well. And then finally, if you want to import music over here or other video into your screencast, this is how you do it. Down here on the bottom, there are two film strips. The top one, it represents what was captured from the webcam and the audio. It's me talking. Flow, how you're doing things, what you're doing along the timeline. All right, down below right here, this is the screen capture. This is what the program recorded from my desktop as I was going through my presentation. And it's right here. So, on the left, let's take a look at what an edited clip looks like. You see all these little segments were cut. You see these little bars and little boxes up here. I'll explain what each of these are. But let's just play. Video in this class. And finally, what are the different types of videos that we're going to be doing? So what's a workflow? A workflow is actually pretty basic. It's a sequence of steps from start to finish on how you make something. A workflow is how you get the job done. Strong projects have a clean and efficient workflow. There we go. So there was a lot of things going on in there. I had several errors, and like I stuttered or had to restart a sentence, I cut those out. And that's whenever you see a segment or a box over here. All right. These boxes up top, this one represents an annotation, an underline, and all of these boxes here represent text boxes. You'll get used to it as we go on. Right? You'll see these audio waveform patterns right here. Looks kind of like a heartbeat monitor. Well, that's whenever I speak. When I get loud, they peak. When I get quiet, they flatten out. I can tell that there's dead space of me not doing anything when there's no activity there. So that tells me that I need to trim those out. So to do that type of fine editing, I need to zoom in close to my video. This red bar is called the header. That's where this screen is currently at on the timeline. So down here on the lower right, I can zoom in really close or zoom out really far away and see the entire recording. So I'm going to zoom in here. Step one, let's get rid of the dead space. What you do is you move your header right over here, give yourself a little breathing room, and this little red box cuts your film strips, both of them. Now I've got it trimmed. I'm going to move the header over to where I quit talking, and then let's trim out these parts. Just click on it and hit delete. And then the dead space here, delete that as well. All right, I need to move my face over. So to do that, I would select the part of the timeline that I want, move my header in a little, go over here to Video Properties, hit Add Video Action, and this little bar shows up. What I'm going to do is move my head right down here. Let's see what it looks like.
Finish, and if some of those things need to be rearranged to be more efficient. So what's the basic workflow for a video in this class?
So that's how you move yourself around. I can also do that with the screen capture. See, it's all crammed up in the top. I want to zoom out a little bit, so I'm going to click on the screen recording, make sure my header's here, because that's going to be where I tell the computer to have the effect. Move it in a little bit, hit Add Video Action, and over here is the Scale button, Scale slider. I'm going to zoom it back a little bit. Let's see how that looks when we play it.
Rearrange to be more efficient. So what's the basic workflow for a video in this?
What I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how to do an annotation. I can click on my annotations properties. Wherever the header's at is where on the timeline that annotation is going to show. Well, let's say I want to underline a part of this little sentence here. So I'm going to go Add Annotations Clip. As you can see, it created this box. This box represents the amount of time that that underline is going to be in the video. So, Add Annotations, box shows up, then you just find which one you want. I'm going to pick the underline. Let's underline this part, and I can make it thick or thin. I can change the color of it. Whatever you want to do. I can even change how long it stays on the screen by clicking and dragging the end of it. Let's have it just be on for 2 seconds. Let's see what we've got.
What's the basic workflow for a video in this class? Well, to understand why you need a workflow, basically it's because creating videos can be very complicated.
Yes, they can be complicated, or not. It's entirely up to you. If you want to record yourself in one complete go and then export your video, that's great. But I strongly encourage you guys to zoom in, zoom out, use annotations, use text boxes in order to retain your students' attention and enhance their learning. I want the screen to go completely black right when my voice starts talking, and then just the text boxes show up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my screen capture. I'm going to go to Video Properties. I'm going to go to Add Video Actions, and then pull that off to the side of the screen. I'm going to go to my desktop screen capture. I'm going to add a video action, and then pull that off to the side of the screen. Now let's see what we've got to work with. There we go. Now we got a blank canvas to work with. Using this waveform, I'm going to line it up right at the very beginning of that peak. That's where I say the word break. I'm going to go over here and click on the T button. That's text box. Add a text box. Break the making of them into several stages. And let's move that over. See what we've got.
So what we do is we break the making of them into several stages. And if you've ever seen the making,
now how long that goes, it's entirely up to me. And it looks like the computer put my text box way up at the top. So I'm just going to drag that down just so it's easier for me to see. This is great for achieving emphasis in your work if you want to emphasize a particular part. So what do you do if you want to bring in other audio or video? Well, this button over here, it looks like a musical note surrounded by a film strip. You simply click on that, go to Add Media, and then if you have a sound file on your desktop or a video file that you want to include in here, you can do that as well. So let's say I want to use a part for another screencast. So I just open up the folder where that's at, double click it, and it imports the whole thing. The whole thing. And if I want to use a part of that video, I'm just going to click and drag where I want that part of the video to show up, pull it down onto the timeline, and there it is. Now all of this is going to conflict with each other.
On the extended features on a DVD, you'll oftentimes see behind the scenes.
So you hear my voice from my screen capture that I've got. You've also got background audio from the video that I've just imported. Here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on the new video I've imported. I'm going to go to the audio tab. I'm going to pull the volume all the way down, and you can just see the audio waveforms just flatlined. So now I've got video.
DVD, you'll oftentimes see behind the scenes.
And I've got my voice. Now the question is, what part of this video am I going to use? And so I'll just zoom out a little bit, put the header over here. Let's see what we've got. Yeah, this looks good. I'm going to trim the part that I want. I'm just going to grab the front of the box, move it right here, and however long I want that to be, I'm going to pull the end of the box, and that's how I've found the part of the new video clip that I want. Click and drag the box over where we want it to pop up in the video. Now use your header to guide you on where you want this video footage to pop up. I want it to pop up right after my text is finished. So let's play it and see what we've got.
So what we do is we break the making of them into several stages. And if you've ever seen the making of portions on the extended features on a DVD, you'll oftentimes see.
And there's our video. Now when you're all finished, you need to export your video. And to export means ScreenFlow takes the raw file here that we've been working on, and it converts it into a format that other computers and devices can recognize. To do that, you just go File, Export, simply name your video file, say where it's going to go, and right here we have to adjust the quality of the video. If you're like me, and sometimes in your videos you try to get high quality visuals where your students could see every single stroke that you make, you'll want the quality to be at 100. If you're simply doing text or slideshows, you can afford between 75 to 50. At 50, the video quality starts to get blurry, so it's entirely up to you. If you want to cram more videos onto a single DVD for your students, scale your videos down. If you want higher quality and professionalism, go for higher quality, 100%. You then click Export, and it can take anywhere between 5 to 40 minutes, depending on how long the video is, how many effects, and how much extra stuff you've put in there. And that is how you make a screencast, at least with my method. So I hope that was helpful. I look forward to seeing you guys. Take care.